Hi, and welcome back to yet another video in this series, exploring all things talent. We have been looking closely at the influences and factors that affect the pathway in sport. In accordance to the biopsychosocial model, today we are going to be looking at examining the social perceptions and how an athlete's background could possibly help or hinder their development. First off, what do we mean by social background? Simply put, it's the environment you're born into. Your family, your community, and your access to money, education, and sport. These elements can directly influence how easily someone can get into sport and thrive. These things affect access to sport long before anyone ever picks up a ball or a racket. For example, families with more financial resources can afford coaching, travel, equipment, and competition fees. Taking a look at some of these statistics, it's no surprise that families with limited funds may steer kids towards free community sport or sometimes no sport at all. So right from the start, social background can open doors or close them. Next, think about the environment. Do you live near safe parks? Are there local clubs? High quality facilities? Or coaches who care? All of these are part of the social and environmental landscape that either promotes or hinders participation. Research from Bale in 2003 shows that where you live influences the type of sport you can play and the quality of training that you receive. Then there's the socio-cultural context. Culture shapes expectations about sport, gender roles, and what's considered appropriate or desirable. In some cultures, girls may be encouraged to participate in dance or gymnastics, but discouraged from playing contact sports. In others, sports is seen as an essential part of growing up. These cultural norms influence both participation and performance, and they're not just individual opinions. They inform policy, funding, and community priorities. So does social background really affect success in sport? The answer is yes, and quite dramatically. It's not enough just to have talent. If you don't have access to the necessities, your pathway to elite performance becomes steeper and longer. That's why talent identification programs often miss late bloomers or athletes from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Success is not just about ability, but opportunity. Your location matters. We spoke about the birthplace effect when discussing the biological perspectives, but it does actually also link in socially. In extremely small populations, there may be a smaller talent pool and less competition, but few athletes can have a big impact, making success statistically less predictable. On the other hand, in extremely large populations, there is much more internal competition, making selection harder, so although success is more predictable through numbers, the chances of it being you are slim. Studies have found that athletes born in areas with a population between 50 and 100,000 are most likely to reach elite levels. The area is developed enough to have sufficient and substantial amount of facilities, but not overcrowded with athletes so that talent is overlooked. There have been athletes to be proving exceptions to this rule, such as Sadio Mane, who grew up in a town with a population as small as 20,000. Not only did he not get any financial support, but he was not allowed to play football up until the age of 15, so that he would focus on his studies. He went on to become one of arguably the best footballers to grace the Premier League with emotional support from his family. And in my opinion, family plays the most crucial role when it comes to making it in sport. Parents are often the first coaches, chauffeurs, cheerleaders, and sponsors. And for this, both time and money are critical. Taking a child to regular practice and competition takes hours and sometimes thousands of pounds a year. Parents juggle work, transport, family life, and this affects who stays in sport and who drops out. Usually, parents either work rich or work poor. Alongside this is the generational cycle. Sport participation often runs in families. Parents who are athletes tend to encourage their children. They understand the system, the sacrifices, and the training, and they can provide that practical support. A perfect example is tennis player Sebastian Corda. His father was the number 2 tennis player in the world, and his mother sat quite highly at 26. That kind of legacy creates not just skill development, but a mindset, access to high-level networks, and early exposure that many athletes never receive. At the ripe age of 18, Sebastian won his first ever US Open. Now, this doesn't guarantee success, but it does stack the odds in someone's favour. Here's the heart of the issue. Should an athlete's family income determine their sporting potential? Equity-focused sport development leads to happier, healthier communities and ultimately more talent rising from every corner of society. However, this shouldn't come at the cost of those who can afford to thrive. That brings us to the end of the social impacts and barriers. And although there are several standout anomalies in the sporting industry, it doesn't disprove the disadvantages that there are. We have now completed the biopsychosocial model and the influence that it has on an athlete's talent pathway. Look out for the next video where we address the ability to transfer a talent.